Ready to open the hood? UseTool for the tutorials.
And for car parts, the right idea is the Mr. Auto app. Easy, fast, and with better prices than on the website.
You will find the Magneti Marelli shock absorbers used in the video through the link in the description. Turn your engine off and pull up the handbrake. To disassemble the front shock absorbers, it is first important to remove the windscreen frame and the windscreen wiper. Before removing the windscreen wipers, place adhesive tape in order to keep a precise indication of their location at the end position. This will make it possible to correctly position them when reassembling. Pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. Take off the engine cover. Remove the nut covers from the wiper arms and using a ratchet and a 16-gauge socket, loosen the nuts. Remove the windscreen wiper arms by making small movements up and down. If they're not coming out, we recommend taking windscreen wiper remover to facilitate the process. Remove the polystyrene insulation. Take out the waterproofing joint on the windscreen bay by pulling it upwards from one end to the other. To remove the windshield bay, lift the 4 plastic rivets holding the windshield bay. Remove the side covers. Now, remove the windshield frame. Using a ratchet and a 16-gauge socket, unscrew the nut on the shock head by a few threads. Then, using a ratchet and a 13mm socket, unscrew the 3 screws holding the shock absorber cups by a few threads in order to create some play for the next manipulations. In order to change the front shock absorbers on your vehicle, you must lift the front of the car and remove the wheels to have complete access to the suspension system. Raise the front of the vehicle and put it in the 2-axle stands. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial, raising your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. You will then be able to take off the wheels. Don't forget to slide them under the vehicle. You now have to remove the stabilizer link bar. It connects the stabilizer link so that the wheels are always in contact with the ground. To do this, we recommend watching our video How to Replace the Sway Bar Links mk2. Using a wire brush, brush the threads of the damper foot screw and spray it with degreaser. Then, using a ratchet and an 18-gauge socket, unscrew the shock foot screw. Then, remove it. Using the wire brush, brush the shock absorber foot of the stub axle to facilitate penetration of the degreaser. Lightly tap the steering knuckle to free the bottom of the shock absorber.
Please support us, subscribe and like the video, that will be really cool.
Finish removing the screws holding the cubs. Once unscrewed, hold the damper with one hand and finish unscrewing with the other. Put the shock absorber to the side. In order to change the shock absorber, you must now separate it from the spring. You can find a description of the tool used in the video, which we think is most adapted to the operation. Careful, pay attention as you compress the spring. This is not without risk and should be undertaken paying very careful attention. Install the shock absorber on the tool, then tighten the mobile flange against the spring, controlling its position carefully. Check that they're properly held by the locking studs, then slowly compress the spring using the socket wrench and the appropriate socket. Once the shock absorber is free from the spring, using an 80mm offset wrench and a 6mm Allen socket, you can unscrew the nut on the shock absorber itself. In certain extreme cases, you have to use an impact wrench. Then, remove the upper spring support and mount. You can now remove the shock absorber from the spring. You can find the Magneti Marelli parts and products used in the video by clicking on the link in the description. Take your new shock absorber. You need to pump it several times on the actuator to get the system going. Unscrew the lock nut on the stem. Note that when you change the shocks, you may also decide to change the shock absorber stop and its protective bellows. You can also reuse them if they're not too worn down. Place the bellows stop on the shock rod. Position everything in the spring. Pay careful attention to place the bottom of the spring so that it supports the shock absorber flange. Then install the cup and upper spring support, and finish by screwing in the lock nut onto the shock absorber stem. Make sure it is well tightened. Unscrew the spring compression tool, paying attention to the position of the spring on the lower shock absorber support. You have now finished preparing the new part. Sand and grease the inside of the stop carrier to make putting the shock absorber in place easier. Put the damper in place by its upper part, taking care to place the upper prong. Tighten the 3 screws on the shock head by a few threads. The bottom position pin on the shock absorber foot must be inserted into the opening stop axle until the hole in the locator screw is aligned with the hole in the stop axle. Thread the shock absorber into the stop axle. Replace the brake hose retainer and then screw the shock foot screw back in. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Put the stabilizer link bar back in place. During this operation, you will work on the steering system of your vehicle. Checks on tyre alignment, when carried out by a professional, will guarantee that your steering system has been perfectly aligned and is in good working order. Screw back the 3 screws of the shock head. The final tightening should be done with a torque wrench. Put the wheels of your vehicle back on and lower it to the ground. Finalize the tightening of the damper head with a torque wrench. Put the windshield frame back in place along with the plastic rivets. Replace the side covers. Replace the seal. Put the insulation back in. Put the waterproof joint back on, then the windscreen wiper arms without tightening excessively. Operation completed.
Hello, if this video helped you, like and subscribe.